It is Sunday, January 9th, 2022. I'm Lights Camera Jackson, and welcome to LCJ Live. Hope you're staying safe and well, and maybe you're going to the movies. A lot of people actually went to the movies this weekend to see two films in particular that made a combined $45 million, and that would be Spider-Man No Way Home with another $33 million. It is at $668.8, and Sing 2, which even though it was available to watch at home on VOD, $12 million for its third weekend. It is at $109. That shows that families still want to go to the movies. Maybe it's actually easier for people, some people, to get up, leave their house, go to a theater and see the movie as opposed to doing all that it takes to put in the credit card information and actually get the movie on VOD. That showed it right there, that families still want to go to the movies. Coming up, we will get into all of the delays that have happened over the last couple of days. Morbius, Turning Red, Aileen, and the Critics' Choice Awards, which would have been today. I would have been in California today if it wasn't for a certain variant. So we will get into all of that here coming up on LCJ Live. DJ Aha, thanks for being here on the show. As always, you can send in your questions and your comments. We're going to do more box office in a second. I do want to point out my friend Drac here. Hotel Transylvania, Transformania, the fourth and final chapter in the saga, is on Amazon Prime Video this Friday. Of course, Sony delayed it a few times and then sent it to Prime Video. It was going to be in theaters. I talked with directors Derek Dryman and Jennifer Kluska, and even got some questions answered from Keegan-Michael Key and Fran Drescher. If you want that Q&A, go to animationscoop.com. Maximus 9001. Thanks for being here on LCJ Live. Coming up, my thoughts on why Morbius got delayed and Turning Red and several other films. But let's get into more of the box office. Thank you for the comment. Triple X Hot Mess, Triple X LCJ Live, best part of the week. I appreciate it. More of the box office. The 355, the first major new release of 2022, just $4.8 million this weekend. I am not surprised at all because it's a terrible film. Universal didn't have any confidence in it a year ago, actually probably 13, 14 months ago. It was supposed to come out the first weekend of January last year, 2021, and when Universal decided to delay it, they said, we're going to move it exactly 52 weeks to the beginning of January 2022. So they knew they had a clunker. It's not a very good film. It's a great cast, but they are giving poor performances. It's very standard, very sleepy in parts. The action is incredibly laughable. The 355. I don't know if it'll make it onto my 10 worst list for the year by the end of the year, but it sure is memorable in that sense when I think about movies for the rest of the year. So $4.8 million for the 355. It'll go down to about 2 and then fall off the face of the earth. The King's Man, $3.3 million this weekend. It's at 25. American Underdog, 2.4. It's at almost 19. Matrix Resurrections added 1.9. It is up to 34. Let's see. West Side Story, Best Picture contender. We'll have to see. 1.4 million. It's at 32. Ghostbusters Afterlife is getting a second life, being back in the top 10 for a second weekend in a row after being out. Another 1.1, it's at 125. Licorice Pizza added $1 million. It's at 8.2, another awards contender. And rounding out your top 10 this weekend, a film that returns to the top 10 after a 2-week absence. It came in 13th over Christmas and 12th over New Year's, but House of Gucci returns to the top 10 with $632,000. Films that fell just shy of that mark: A Journal for Jordan with $605, Nightmare Alley with $592, and Encanto with about $500,000. Poor box office mean we won't get any more Matrix movies? Yeah, I'm not so sure. We'll have to see what Warner Brothers is thinking there. Greco Tho, thanks for being here on LCJ Live. Okay, so we're going to now talk about these delays because we have to. First of all, today would have been the Critics' Choice Awards. It was scheduled for January 9th, but obviously on December 22nd, when the Omicron variant came into play and things were getting worse, were starting to get worse, and people were looking at the future, Critics' Choice very wisely decided to pull the show, delay the show to a date that has not yet been determined, but will be sometime either in February or March. It could go into March. It's just got to be before March 27 when the Academy Awards is, as of right now. You know, hopefully it will be an in-person show. Hopefully I'll be able to attend the Critics' Choice Awards whenever it is in LA later this winter. We'll have to see how things are. Obviously, health and safety are the top priorities when it comes to just about everything these days. And so we'll have to see where things are. What is interesting is that we have the Sag Awards nominations this Wednesday. Also, the BAFTA long lists come out. Basically, they're short lists, but they call it long lists because that's what they do over there. They call it the long list. So we have the Sag Awards nominations Wednesday morning at 10. They're going to be announced on Instagram for the second year in a row, even though I watched the Instagram live announcement last year, and it was kind of messy. Daveed Diggs had the link, and he couldn't get Lily Collins to come into the live feed to do the nominations, and it took forever, and there were other issues and other things. Why don't you just do it live on TV, in a place, in a set, at a studio? Do it like you did before. Just because everything's different now a little bit with people at home doesn't mean you had to change that. I don't understand it. I don't. We're going to have, I believe, Rosario Dawson, Vanessa Hudgens do the announcements on Wednesday morning at 10 a.m. Eastern. So anyway, with the awards season, ever since Critics' Choice delay was announced on December 22, basically the momentum for all movies in the awards season, I really think has kind of shot down. Maybe it was because of the holidays, because of people trying to stay at home and be safe, because of people going to the theater to go see Spider-Man, the one dominant movie in all of this, and even Sing 2. Maybe it's all of that, and maybe it's just because this whole thing is going to be stretched out so long again that people aren't in that frame of mind yet. They were for a bit, and then when you stop things and just sit back, that's when the momentum's going to go down. So that's what I feel like for a lot of these movies, whether it's West Side Story or Belfast or some of these streaming movies that are going for Best Picture. You had a moment, and now it's kind of died down, and now we got to bring ourselves back up again. We've got the SAG Awards nominations Wednesday, and then the Oscar nominations are February 8th, so we're still about a month away from that. The BAFTA nominations are February 3rd. Yes, Betty White's passing, and so many people who have passed in the past week, I think has taken a lot of the entertainment headlines as well. Rightly so, to honor all of these people, but away from these award season movies. So it's a really interesting time, and we'll have to see if the momentum comes back up, if people care, if people want to see these movies, they care about them, how the studios are doing releasing some of these films. MGM is holding Cyrano probably as close as they can to the Oscar nominations, see if Peter Dinklage gets one, and then we'll finally release it to the masses. There's a few more of those cases as well. I could see expansions and re-releases, maybe, for some of these films. I can picture a King Richard re-release for Will Smith, but the film is actually going to be on DVD on Feb 8 on Oscar nomination day, so maybe that's not going to happen. It's a really interesting time, which brings us to Morbius. Morbius was supposed to come out January 28th. Sony the other day said, no, we're moving it again, this time to April Fool's Day, April 1st. Now, you could say a couple of things. One is, they moved it because of Omicron. I don't fully buy that. Number two, they're moving it because certain people who may have been in the last Spider-Man movie, in case you haven't seen it, I won't spoil, certain people who may have been in that may want to do cameo appearances in Morbius, and they got to film those scenes. I don't know if I fully buy that either. I did the math, I looked at it, and I said, whoa, Jared Leto, who received a Critics' Choice nomination for Best Supporting Actor for his performance in House of Gucci, probably wants to get an Oscar nomination because he came close last year for The Little Things. He got a Golden Globe nomination, and he got a SAG Awards nomination for The Little Things, but he didn't get that Oscar nom. And I bet he was not happy. So now he's in a position again where he could get nominated. He's already on the path with Critics' Choice for House of Gucci. He may get a SAG nomination on Wednesday, and he wants that Oscar nom. And Morbius was going to come out on January 28th, right in the weekend of the Oscar nominations voting period. And if the movie is terrible, or if the movie bombs, or both, Jared Leto doesn't want to be associated with something that doesn't work and then not end up getting an Oscar nomination. In a category this year, supporting actor, that's kind of wide open. So he and his people probably said, wow, we got a shot here. We can't have this movie ruin our chances. So I bet Jared Leto, a previous Oscar winner, of course, for Dallas Buyers Club, has a lot of pull. He's the star of Morbius. And I bet he went to Sony, he and his people, and said, all right, I got to campaign for this nomination. I can't have this movie affected in any way. I can't do promotion for this movie and campaign for the nomination over the next couple of weeks. You need to move this film. And I bet they convinced Sony to do it. I really do. Because it's now April 1st, the Friday after the Oscar ceremony. He didn't want it being associated with the nominations or with voting for the winners, because he may try to win this thing. As Randy Jackson used to say on American Idol, he's in it to win it, Ryan. He's in it to win it. And so that's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking, it's no coincidence. You don't move something from the nomination day to the Friday after the Oscar ceremony. That's not a coincidence. That is intentional. Why they waited this long, I think, is because they realized after the Critics' Choice nominations came out, which was right around Spider-Man weekend, they didn't want to make this announcement right in the heat of Spider-Man. They didn't want to do it while Spider-Man was still huge, and that might have steered some people away from the theaters if they moved Morbius and some other things, so they wanted to wait a couple weeks, but they've had this plan in place for a while. They had it over Christmas, they had it over New Year's to make this change. Makes sense to me. Yes, there could be other reasons involved, but that makes the most sense to me. That is why Morbius has moved to April 1st, because Jared Leto wants to go back to the Oscars. That's it. We'll see if he does. We'll see if the plan works. Obviously, it's a hole now for theaters at the end of January that is not being filled. Moonfall and Jackass Forever, which both come out February 4th, neither has moved up a week. You don't want you want to avoid the Norbit effect, says DJ Richopo. Absolutely. That was Eddie Murphy when Norbit came out during Dreamgirls voting time, both Paramount movies, and he lost the Oscar to Alan Arkin for Little Miss Sunshine. So, yes, I agree that is definitely, it's reminiscent of that for sure. So, yes, we've now got a hole for the theaters. Neither the February 4 films is moving up. So, yeah, it's going to be a bit of a hole at the end of January, which is too bad, but I think it makes sense from Jared Leto's perspective. Now, let's talk a little bit. Big 6262, are you excited for Scream 5? I will be planning on seeing the new Scream movie probably sometime this week. Just figuring out when I'll be seeing it. Yeah, I guess. I hope it does well for theaters. I do. I hope the horror fandom community comes out for it, the people who love that franchise. I'll see it. See if it's good. It does feel a little bit to me like Paramount wants to capture the magic that the first Halloween reboot from Universal had in 2018. I feel like they want to try to do that a little bit. So we'll see if it's a good film. Hopefully it is. Scream will probably be #1 next weekend. Although Spider-Man, if it drops to 20 and Scream doesn't do as big as some predict, it could be a bit of a battle. But Scream could also be an easy #1 next weekend. Let's talk about Turning Red, the Pixar animated film that was supposed to come out in theaters on March 11th, and it is now going to be a direct Disney Plus debut on March 11th. So this is the third Pixar movie in a row to have this delay after Soul. Soul was understandable. It was Christmas of 2020. Everybody wanted to be at home. Nobody wanted to go to the theater. Some families were going to see The Croods over Christmas and Wonder Woman 1984, but Disney, being the Mouse House, did not want families risking their lives to go to the theater to see Soul. So that's why they put it on Disney Plus for Christmas. Luca was also on Disney Plus last summer. I still believe that was a mistake, that it was just a Disney Plus debut. It should have also gone to theaters because it would have done well. It was during a time where families were going to the movies. The animated films weren't making as much money, but Pixar would have made more money because adults also go besides, adult couples and older couples besides just families. So I do believe Luca would have done pretty well in theaters. Turning Red, I believe in the theatrical experience. Obviously, if families feel more comfortable at home watching a film, then having it on Disney Plus is great. I wish Disney would have also given it the chance to be in theaters. Maybe they'll do some things with the El Capitan again like they did with Luca. Maybe they'll make some changes based on the reaction to this. I understand the decision, but it was an interesting one. I didn't fully expect this, especially because there was legitimate backlash, and still is on social media, from the people last time who said, I can't believe you're throwing 2 Pixar movies on Disney Plus and you get to put the Disney Animation Studios films in theaters. Immediately when I saw the press release come out the other day, I was like, oh man, this is going to get a ton of negative reaction again. But here we are. Times are changing. Films being released. The strategies are changing. But I do think it's odd now. Sing 2 made $12 million this weekend, which is pretty good. I do think it's odd now that we've got this gigantic hole for family films in the theaters until Sonic on April 8th. See, that doesn't fully make sense to me. Either Sonic moves up or some other films move up. I know there are some smaller family films going to theaters between now and April 8, but having this hole and clearly showing this weekend that you can make $12 million for families for the third weekend of an animated movie that's also at home on VOD, something's gonna change. Something will move up, or there will be an adjustment. I don't know if this is fully final, this exclusive Disney Plus. I don't know. I think, nothing happens till it actually happens. That's one of my philosophies of life, and I don't think this is 100% solid. It may, based on how that press release looked the other day, but we'll have to see if there are some adjustments there. Let's talk about Aileen, the Celine Dion unauthorized biopic film that I love, that was supposed to come out January 21. Roadside Attractions decided to delay it to April 8. I think they got caught up in the Morbius thing, didn't understand that the Morbius thing has more to do with Jared Leto's Oscar chances than Omicron. So it's too bad that it's now not coming out until April 8, because I love this film. I want people to see it. And you're taking another film away from theaters right now that are struggling. They're struggling. They need the films. They need the money. They need people to come to the theaters to see quality films, and that's a quality film. Now, yes, are older audiences going as much as they used to? No. Are family audiences going as much as they used to? No. But, something is better than nothing. Something is better than zero, which is what these theaters had for so long, was basically zero. So, Aileen's April 8. Maybe that'll move up a few weeks. That would be nice. So that's my thoughts on the delays of these movies. Hopefully no more movies get delayed. Hopefully we don't have too many more surprise shifts in the dynamics over the next couple of months. But it's going to be a little tougher now. We had a nice steady stream of movies in the theaters and steady top 10 lists for the weekend box office. And now it's going to kind of get a little sketchy again, a little loose again. And some of these movies are not going to be coming 7th, 8th, and 9th, and 10th, and not going to make a lot of money. Everyone came to the theater for Spider-Man, and now they're taking movies away again, says Kelvin. Yeah, it's tough. These studios got to make these decisions, in some cases with this Disney decision of turning red 2 months before the movie's going to come out. It's hard to predict what's going to happen in 2 months. Hard to predict what's going to happen in 2 weeks, but yeah, some of these studios making these long, far out decisions, and then we've already seen it during this pandemic period of studios delaying certain movies, and then you come to that point, like Luca for Disney Pixar, you come to that point in the summer and it was like, oh man, if we put out a Pixar movie, we would have done well this weekend. So there have been a few of those cases. There have been a few cases where it was very smart to move the film because the timing wasn't great. So we'll have to see what happens. Scream is this week. Also out in theaters is Belle, which is a very good adult animated film. I hope gets an Oscar nomination. It's up for some Annie Awards. Belle is out. Also on Apple TV Plus is The Tragedy of Macbeth. I review that with Mike Sargent on the Too Fast, Two Films podcast. New episode coming hopefully later today to toofast2films.com. And we also name our most anticipated films of 2022. We each pick one and go in depth on it. My film, you probably won't be surprised what I choose. You may be surprised what Mike chooses, because I was, and we really go in depth on that. Also a film out on VOD this week called Italian Studies with Vanessa Kirby. I'll have my thoughts on that later this week. And as I mentioned, Transylvania is on Amazon Prime Video. We'll be back next Sunday. We'll talk SAG nominations, BAFTA long lists, how Scream did at the box office, and we'll preview some more movies coming out in the month of January. As always, go to Twitter at LCJ Reviews. That's where you are now if you're watching this on Twitter, or if you're watching this on YouTube, youtube.com/lightscamerajackson. The website is lights-camera-jackson.com. Instagram at lightscamjackson, and a bunch of Q&As with the directors of Oscar finalists for the animated short film category are at animationscoop.com. Thank you for watching LCJ Live. Fly Eagles Fly. We'll see where they go in the playoffs, and I'll see you next Sunday for LCJ Live. Bye-bye.